morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm back in the studio with Daniel Naor.
Woohoo!
We are super excited to talk about an issue that is one of the plagues of modern society, for sure. Learning to unlearn learning how to unlearn people pleasing is a quest that many of us are on, and we received so many messages, emails, requests asking us to dedicate a whole episode to breaking down what's the real problem with it, why is it so hard to break free from, and what are some behaviors, mindsets, and belief systems that can replace that which is taking space in our lives and making us human doings instead of human beings.
Well said, Elisheva.
So this is the week that the universe is inviting us to really reassess what it is about our quote unquote self-sacrifice, which we've had an episode about. We've had angles, but we've never tackled people pleasing head on. And the Kabbalists have a lot to say about it, as well as Daniel Naor has a lot to say about it. So he's joining the ranks this morning. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where we provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical tools to navigate the coming 7 days. We do that by drawing from the wisdom of Kabbalah and offering not only practical tools and wisdom, but also experiences that shed light and can help you navigate not only situations this week, but literally any week of the year, any year of your life. And this issue, I would call it, of people pleasing, I think is a product. This is my personal opinion. Obviously, it's a 1% opinion, meaning it's the physical explanation of why it's such an issue for us these days. It doesn't explain the spiritual angle, which I hope we can get into. But, a lot of us, we learn, I guess, when we're younger, our only desire is for love and belonging. And when our caregivers don't respond to us with love and belonging, we learn to adjust our behavior and our needs to accommodate only those things that create a greater sense of love and belonging. So when I do for you what makes you happy and you then show me love and belonging, I will repeat those behaviors and those words and those actions so as to feel loved and belonged. Mm-hmm. However, in the process, we end up learning very unhealthy coping skills and mechanisms in life that cause a basically inauthentic lifestyle, betraying the self, day in and day out, not being in touch with our needs and our wants, focusing on our performance or production as an expression of our value rather than focusing on our intrinsic value, which is our light, our soul, our existence. So that's the intro to our conversation. Obviously, Kabbalah takes it a step further and says, we choose when a soul comes to the physical reality, we choose the best family, the best culture, the best environment, best circumstances to set us up to work on our soul's growth and transformation. So if our soul, prior to coming into a physical body, chooses people pleasing as a correction, as a tikkun, so the soul will choose a family in which people pleasing is a learned behavior, maybe it's considered a value in your family that not honoring your own needs and wants is a value. And so you learn to replicate that and emulate that and end up being miserable and live miserably ever after. So
the end.
Yeah, basically that's how a lot of people unfortunately live their lives. And for whatever reason, we value self-sacrifice in our society. We value the hustle. The person who's winning is the person who's working the hardest. It's a lot of illusion in those statements, and we are here to break that down.
All right.
Dismantle the institution. Go.
So I think first step is to look at people pleasing, if that's what we want to look at first, for what it is and what's behind it. So I think really the truth is that people pleasing is more sort of like the effect, and we need to dig a little bit deeper and see what's behind the people pleasing. And you hinted on that, or you said it already, right? That it's a distorted lack of self-worth and disconnected from the self, disconnected from my needs, my values, and honoring myself and my soul. So if there is a lack in that, then people pleasing starts to become a compensation for that. And that is what makes change oftentimes so difficult. What makes change difficult and changing limiting beliefs is that even though intellectually I know, well, I shouldn't care what other people think of me. Well, I shouldn't be so caught up in this. Well, I shouldn't. Yet I do this because it compensates for something, an inner lack. And I don't differentiate between this illusionary sense of compensation and the price or
temporary. Maybe it's gratifying for a moment,
right?
But it doesn't solve the deep hole I feel inside,
right,
where my self-worth should be.
Right. So I want to start off by giving our audience and our listeners these questions, and ask yourself, if you have aspects, even the slightest, or moments of people pleasing, to sit with yourself and ask, what function does that people pleasing have? What function does it have? And what does it compensate for? And what do I actually obtain from this pattern of people pleasing? And can I get it without pleasing others? What would it take for me to get what I get from people pleasing without the people pleasing, right? And what does it compensate for? So I think this is our starting point, being with these questions, because it will just trying to get rid of the people pleasing and saying like, I know I shouldn't be doing it, won't get us very far.
It's like looking for another drug.
Exactly. We're cutting off the branches, but we're not going to the root cause, right? It will still be there. So we need to go a little bit deeper and actually discuss self-worth, discuss the I. And there are many, many different examples. I'll be more than happy to share some of the experiences that I had working with a lot of people. I got the privilege into really seeing how deep sometimes it can reach. So, you ready to dive in?
I am.
Okay.
My personal session. Listen to tens of thousands of people on Weekly Energy Post. Let's go.
So, a very interesting one that, I want to bring three different examples. And because when what I do most of the time in the one-on-one sessions in Tikkun healing, we're addressing Tikkun from different points of view. So we can understand our Tikkun. So like Elisheva said, if my soul has chosen the Tikkun of valuing myself without needing other people's validation, without being depending on that, feeling good enough and loving and accepting myself just the way I am. Let's say that's the goal. That's a lesson that my soul came here to learn. Well, that Tikkun can be tackled and understood from different angles and points of view. I'll address the first one. The first one is from a soul point of view and actually even previous lifetimes. We learn in Kabbalah that our soul is immortal and keeps on coming back to learn these lessons. Now, there can be a situation in which me in my previous lifetime perhaps have, by taking my power and by speaking up and taking my voice, I've hurt a lot of people along the way. Meaning I've misused my power in some way or another. So I had my voice, I had the power, I had responsibility, maybe I was a leader, people followed me, and I misused it. Or I made a terrible mistake and misguided them. Okay? Now, that event, even if it's in a previous lifetime, can leave a residue of pain in my soul. Pain, shame, guilt. and a slight residue of memory that can carry on in the next lifetime that will remind me, don't take your power. Don't take your self-worth. Don't accept yourself. Nullify yourself. Go with the herd. It's not safe to take your power. It's not safe to claim your voice because of the past memory of how many were hurt by it. Claiming my power will hurt others. That can be a subconscious belief. Leading with my voice will hurt others. And even though it intellectually might not make sense, if there's a ways that we can test ourselves, even for our listeners, if you come across and you're dealing with this type of tikkun, place your hand on your heart and ask yourself, for how long have I been carrying this feeling of not being able to take myself and to take my power and to value myself? And if you feel like you had it all your life, then probably it's extending it even further to previous life. So this is one way to work with and understand the limiting beliefs and how they're lying to us, how they're holding us back. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
In a rudely painful way. Makes sense.
Okay. Now, one of the solutions for that is, without making a whole session about it, okay, but the bottom line, one of the directions towards the solution for that, working with previous lifetimes, is, okay, that chapter is closed. I can take the good that I've learned from this, which is maybe leading with humility. Because what is behind people pleasing and not taking there's always something good behind it that we can take. It's not just about getting rid of something. Actually, as a matter of fact, it's not at all about getting rid of something. It's about taking the good from it and moving forward with it without the limiting aspects of that. So what is the good that I can take maybe from this previous lifetime experience? Well, I can take the good that not to allow ego to get to my head, to remind me without limiting myself of being humble. That it's possible to that I can use this humility and humbleness without needing to sacrifice my self-worth. Mm-hmm. Right? So I can take from that lifetime the good lesson that it brought me, which is humility, being a team player, perhaps, seeing the value in others, but without needing to nullify myself in this process. Right? Now, there's another deeper level that we go into. Do you want to say anything before we go into that?
I don't want to interrupt the flow. I just want to listen.
Just listen mode. All right. We'll do it this way. An interesting one that actually just before coming here I had a session and we worked on something like that, and we found something really profound. Sometimes people pleasing as a symptom of not valuing ourselves or nullifying ourselves can come from a dynamic of our family system. But beyond the family system, it can be part of our origins. It can be part of a dynamic of our traditions, cultural values, and nationality. And so sometimes there is a hidden loyalty to that makes us nullify ourselves. And I'll explain an example with a person that I worked with. So for that individual case, what we worked with was she always had that sense of myself can only validate it through the we. So only through the we does my I can my I even exist. And as we dig deeper, I realize it's beyond like a belief system that she learned from herself or experiences. It's tied to something else. And as we dig deeper, she shared with me a little bit about her upbringing and where she's coming from, in her case, and from Russia. And she said something very interesting. She said, growing up, with this culture and communism and everything, she said that exactly that. And even, I don't know if it's true, that's what she shared with me. She said that the word I in Russian, the letter I is the last letter in the alphabet. So the I always comes last. It's like really ingrained, deeply ingrained. And again, some people coming from that, it might not have that effect on them, but it had that effect on her. That she has learned that my I is only valuable through the we. So the we is more important than the I, and therefore I can only validate myself through the we, through others. And that's how she lived most of her life. Like, she really doesn't see her light, see her greatness, see her value, only when others see it. It's sort of like the moon doesn't have light of its own. It only gets its light through the sun. So these type of people are always looking for the sun, and they see themselves as the moon. But it's like, it's okay to be the sun. It's okay to shine. I can shine on my own and can reflect my light on the moon as well. It is safe to do so. But what was the hidden dynamic that made her hold on to this belief that I need to nullify myself? Is that on a deeper level, she felt, because she moved away from that country and she lives now in a different country. And so that moving away, what kept her connected to her culture, to her origins, to her childhood, was if I were to let go, if I were to actually embrace my power and step into self-worth, I will betray my origins. So we see sometimes how more complex it is, and what leads people to holding on to a belief that is obviously not serving them and is destructive, but in a secret way, it maintains a certain loyalty, right? So we worked on that. We worked on that, and the possibility that it's absolutely possible to embrace my power, to embrace my light, to embrace my self-worth without betraying my origins and my culture. And that we did actually a beautiful meditation in which we can really tap into our power, the I, the self, the soul, and see it as part of our family, and see it as part of society, see it as part of humanity, and see it as part of creation, where choosing and seeing and validating the I does not mean that I'm separated. Actually, the more I embrace my uniqueness, I embrace my light, that's the only way that I can really feel part of the collective. It's the only way that I can really belong. So the first step is truly embracing my unique light, and then knowing that this is the way to integrate it, because the world needs my light. So it's like the detail and the big picture. I'm part of everything, and everything is part of me. But it starts with, if I don't have this healthy sense of fully embracing my light and my uniqueness and my soul and accepting it just the way it is, then I will always try to validate it through other people and the we and the collective. And that's a vicious cycle.
Like lighting other people up is not the same as shining your own light.
That's right.
And I think a lot of people mistake, when I make someone else happy, I'm revealing light.
Mm-hmm.
Their happiness is not my light. I might be dimming my light to make someone else happy.
Yeah. And it's very interesting. I actually remember now some of the comedians. I know an actor as Will Smith, I think even Kevin Hart. I heard some of their stories, and I think a lot of it was about for them to try to make, family members laugh. It was really about like, accommodating others. And yeah, in their case, they developed like a great strength and skill from that. I don't know about their personal life, but the side effect of that, the limiting part, if we don't take it as a resource of knowing how to relate to others, that's a beautiful thing, knowing how to make others comfortable. But does it have to come with a price? I can use it without needing to negate myself, still holding my self-worth and having that tool available as well.
Was there a third one that you were going to share, or that was it?
No, there was a third one. So there are 3 levels. Yes, the third one. So we have on a soul level, previous lifetime, we have the family that we're born into, the country they're born, the culture that we're born into, and to know that that's chosen too. It's based on the tikkun, right? And so it's also to have that perspective and honor our origins. And actually, I had her really take on the origins and her culture and give it a good place in her heart to know that it's safe to embrace my power. I'm not betraying you, right? The third one is more isolating specific experiences sometimes from our life, because based on our tikkun and our past that we come with, and based on our tikkun, we go through life having certain experiences with that tikkun. And that can be certain childhood experiences from childhood, in which that tikkun will be triggered. And in those moments, we adopt unconscious beliefs. Okay, so we can also ask ourselves, okay, so when did it start for me? Again, putting our hand on our heart, maybe we can do that. Okay, when did it start for me? When did I start to adopt that need to nullify myself and not giving myself importance, or not feeling worthy, or not being able to take myself and needing other people's validation? When did it start for me? And for some, the answer might not be all my life. Some of the people might feel like the answer is, well, it started when I was 8, or it started when I was 16. And then we can dig into, okay, what happened then? What was the event? And we can go revisit that event and see what happened and what did it force me to do in that moment. So an example, maybe there was an event, my parents got divorced, and I felt I took the responsibility for me, and I felt the rejection, and I felt the responsibility, and I blamed myself for that. Okay, so what did it force me to do? And actually, maybe even there was a dynamic of me trying to save my parents' marriage. So, and that's just an example. There might be other experiences where I was rejected, either by a parent or in high school, whenever I was rejected, and so or made feel not good enough. Came in with grades, and there was, why wasn't that an A? Why wasn't it 100? Right? And what this taught me could have been a belief that in order to get the love that I seek, like you said so beautifully, right? Our very first relationship, what we depend on is the love and the belonging. So there can be certain events in our life that let us believe that in order to find love and belonging, I have to be perfect. I have to be perfect in order to people to love me.
Or what? Not. I think that for a lot of people, it's not I have to be perfect in order, but rather the fact that I'm perfect is what makes people love me.
Is what makes people love me.
So it's almost like maintaining this image, always having a good mood, nothing ever bothers me, because the risk of being authentically, upset and disappointed, whatever, or not performing, you run the risk of losing the love.
Right.
So it causes a very, I find a lot of people in that state, it's like they never stop moving for fear that if they rest, or if they stop, or if they take a break, they'll lose love, or they won't be accepted or belong the way that they do when they're overexerting themselves.
Right. So then we need to look at these events and revisit it. And similar to what we said before, it's always important to acknowledge the good things that were developed through that, right? So what are the good things that I developed from that experience, right? Because it's always easy. That's oftentimes a important part that people leave out. They go back, and then what awakens is I blame my parents for having done that, or I blame myself for having that. Oh, it's so bad. It's like, no, it was a necessary part of the process. Why was it necessary? What are the good things that you have developed from it? Strength, values, skill set. Acknowledge it. That is something that you can continue to use to this point. But what is also the limiting aspect that you have learned from it? So going back to your example, what would you say would be some good things that people can potentially learn or acquire from an experience like that?
Well, I think that living a life of service, there is, feeling that you have value to add, that you contribute to something bigger than you. You don't want to shut that down completely and, hide in a cave, because creating circuitry and reciprocity is so much about what our relationships are about, right? So I find a lot of people, when they hear about this idea that, people pleasing isn't good, so they say no to everybody about everything for a while, which also shuts us off from meaningful relationships and engagement and interaction with other people. So it's more of the, learning, like you said, learning to take the good. Being a kind and giving and compassionate person doesn't need to end just because I honor my own needs and wants.
Right.
I can simultaneously be in touch with the value that I provide and also care about my fellow friend or partner or whatever without losing myself in the way I care.
Right. Yeah, because that's the other opposite extreme, right? Some people that say the opposite, they say, well, I don't care at all what other people think of me, right? And that just reveals how much they still care, right? Because it's just another side of the coin of caring too much or not caring at all. If you don't care at all, you still care, right? You just show it in a different way of not caring, pretending not to care at all.
And not looking, right? You're still looking. Do they care? Are they paying attention?
Yeah.
Even though you're saying you don't want them to.
Yeah. So for all of you that feel like, this is not my issue, maybe we can review it again.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm sure that there are a lot of people pleasers who are listening who are thinking, I know I'm a people pleaser and I'm working and I'm better, right? This is not a zero-sum game. It's about growth, not being perfect. But for anybody who's at the beginning of that awareness, first of all, it can be very shocking to think, and I even remember sitting and, working with students, not only individually, but in a class and talking about this idea and having people, I think it was just a few weeks ago in my Kabbalah 1, giving feels good. I shouldn't give to feel good. And we had a whole conversation about how if you're giving in order to feel good, you're missing the point about the giving. The opportunity to share can provide you with so much more than feeling like a good person, which I think the badge that a lot of people pleasers wear is I'm a good person. Like that's a value to me. I want to be known as a good person, a person that people can count on. I always ask them at what cost, right? You don't leave your phone more than 2 feet away from you in case somebody needs you or needs something or is going to call you. So I wonder if there's anything we can share with people who are like on the very first steps of that journey of becoming aware. I mean, their jaws are probably on the floor after hearing you talk about the different levels you can address it. But what are some low-hanging fruit that they can begin to step into their self-worth journey?
Something that came to my mind as we were talking about it is it's also one of the first steps in the beginning phase is, are we ready, truly ready to give that up? Because for some people it's truly scary. And so it's important to be real with ourselves. And if the answer is, no, I'm not ready yet, to be okay with that. Not to say, I want to change it, tell me what to do. What are the steps? To really be honest with ourselves and saying, what am I ready for? It's interesting. I worked with someone maybe last week, and we found some beliefs and we worked on, and I'm always very mindful. I ask people if they're ready. I show them the cost that it has for them for continue to live a life like that. I show what's the illusionary gain and the temporary gain. And I ask are you ready? Are you willing? And are you ready to let this go? Do you think it's possible? Are you ready? Are you willing? Because we need to respect free will. right? On the outside, it's so obvious for the people that are over it or like above that, or like a teacher or a helper or a family member that wants to help with someone with that. It's always easy to say, oh, just give it up, right? But if we're in whatever shape and form trying to assist others or accompany others, it's so important to give them the choice. Not to say, here's how you get rid of it. It said, this is what it is, and this is where it's coming from. It's from the previous life, it's from the family dynamics, it's from this experience from your childhood, and this is why you're carrying it, and this is how it served you so far, and here's the cost that the price you pay for it. What do you want to do with it? And you know what? For the first time in many years that I'm doing this, last week or so, I had a woman tell me, I asked her, how long do you want to keep it for? And you know what she told me?
Another 6 months?
Just a little longer. Just a little longer.
Wow.
And you know what we did at that point? We stopped the session. I didn't work with her. We were already towards the end, but I let her have it, because you have to respect the free will. And I think that's sometimes the most painful thing for us to watch that want to help. It's like, why would you want to keep it for a little bit longer? You see where it's going. You see the purpose of that belief is already served. You pay a higher price for it. But it's easy to see it in others. But let's think for ourselves. How many things we know that we should give up, but there's a part of us that hugs it and feels like, it feels so familiar and cozy and safe. I'm
predictable.
And predictable and control. I'm not ready. There's many things in our life right now, to me, myself included, and our listeners, that we're not willing to give up. So if people pleasing and not accepting yourself the way you are is part of it, don't judge yourself for it, what I'm saying. And others shouldn't be judging you. And it's actually in that non-judgmental state and accepting that I'm not willing to give it up is where we begin to slowly release it. And it's a more authentic and more honest than the rushed reactive need to get rid of it because I know that it's wrong. I know I shouldn't do it. That energy usually is not conducive for change.
For lasting change.
Yeah.
You may be able to fix it for a week or 2 weeks.
And I did this meditation with her, and another response she got when we worked on releasing, even though she said she wanted to let it go. After the meditation, I asked her, how do you feel? And guess what she said? Sad. She felt really sad.
Wow.
Because she defined herself for so long by that energy and that belief, that now letting it go, now that it's actually real and she felt like it's gone, or started the journey of releasing it, because for most of us it's not just gone in a day, but there's levels to it. Beginning the process of releasing it, it felt like, I'm losing a part of myself that I've known all my life. So are we willing to go through it? Because it requires courage too. It requires courage to let it go, the known and familiar.
So true. And I think also, especially when bigger issues come into our awareness, the bigger the issue, the more space, and I don't mean physical space, I mean room in our lives, energetic space, emotional space, we need to give it. Like if it's something a person has been holding on to for 30 years, it wasn't installed in a day. Mm-hmm. The same way a person learns becomes excellent at something after 10,000 hours, right? That's what they say. So imagine you've been people pleasing for more than 10,000 hours. You are a professional. Unraveling that it's not only that it takes a process, it's probably also the levels of awareness about it also aren't instant. And that's what I find when I really dedicate myself to dismantling something that doesn't serve me. You have this realization, you realize, okay, I shouldn't do this anymore. I shouldn't have this belief system or think this way or whatever. And then it hits you in another level and you realize, wow, that wasn't even it in the first place. I thought it was a judgment issue. Now I'm finding it's really a shame issue. You dig under the shame issue, you find it's really a this. So I think what you said about allowing it, right? Not rushing to surgically remove it, but allowing it the room to take its process of detaching or unraveling, whatever you want to call it, is also powerful, because behind every layer that you shed is another layer of awareness and another layer of understanding. And by skipping the process, you skip that awareness and understanding. And that's half the joy, I think, in the growing, is the realizations and the understandings and the connections that you make. You don't want to give that up. That's half the reward of the transformation, is getting to know yourself, realizing what's under the layers of the people pleaser costume that you've been carrying for so long.
Yeah. And to know the consequences of my choices, right? Honoring the choice, being aware that I'm choosing this. But think about, what does it mean if I choose to stay with low self-worth and people pleasing? I will need, what lessons will I need to draw into my life in order to evolve? Probably more rejection, right? Probably more experiences, more relationships that I will feel pulled to need the validation that will be followed by rejection, so that I won't be needing to be dependent on that. So to really ask the question, like, so for how long am I willing to play that game of being rejected? Because the rejection, it has one purpose. The purpose of the pain of the rejection is to cleanse that tikkun, is to cleanse the tikkun of not being attached to other people's need for validation. But if I'm not aware that rejection is a cleanser, I'll just feel the pain, and there will be no gain in that pain. It will just painful, and then I don't learn the lesson. I'll need another relation, and on and on and on, until I take that pain and say, beautiful. What we learn in Kabbalah, right? Pause, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. It's the most painful massage, but it's massaging away all the knots of my attachment to other people's validation. It's cleansing me from not feeling good enough and not worthy and all these beliefs. And wow, what a release, right? Until I'm ready, right? But we don't need, and here's another trick, right? Not trick, but the beauty of how the system is set up. We get to choose in how we experience our spiritual evolution. Whether I experience my spiritual growth and evolution and change through 20 rejections, or I said, I want to choose it deliberately, consciously, proactively, by working on proactively choosing, valuing myself without the need for validation by others. And so all what it really takes, what we're saying here, is a choice. And most people are not aware that it is a choice. We're thinking that, it's happening. Here we go again. It's happening again. Or I'm still having it and I'm still feeling it. Have you ever really, of course, we can only truly choose if we have dug deep enough and we know the mechanics and what keeps us attached and where it's coming from. Then we get a clearer picture. But it's very important to, like we said before, see if we're ready. But if we're ready, give this new belief and program a strong yes. Choose it with all your heart and your soul. And then the journey starts to become really more about just empowering that new story. Feed it, give it more energy. Say, I'm not that person anymore. Because the self-image that we have is how we act and how we feel. So if I see myself as putting on the hat of not worthy and people pleaser, I'm feeding it. But if I strongly and deliberately choose that this is my identity, that's my new self-image, and then I can back it up with Kabbalistic tools and mantras and meditate and like finding ways to feed that story and feed that belief, then we find new neurological pathways even in our brain that project it in this way. It becomes my reality, right? But that's the last part of the process.
Can you share with our listeners what you have planned for the month of May?
Yes, lots of good stuff for the month of May. For all my East Coast people and people in New York, I'm coming right at you. May 19th, Tikkun Healing workshops going on a tour. It started already this year, but I haven't been to the East Coast yet. So I'm going to do a Tikkun Healing ancestral healing workshop in New York at the New York Kabbalah Centre on Sunday, May 19th. And for all the people that are wanting to join online, not for this one, but I have something very special and more exclusive for online participation. This is a pilot. This is the first time we're doing it. So very excited about that one. May 12th, we're starting an exclusive small group Tikkun Healing workshop. It's limited to 10 people. So might be sold out.
Well, it's only April 29th. They might be the first one signing up.
Yes.
It will sell out for sure.
By the time you hear it, it might be already sold out if you're watching or hearing this on a Thursday. But it's very special. I'm excited about it. And there will be more of these. So even if it's sold out, we'll give you the dates for the next one. It's a 12 weeks journey. And the reason why we're working more intimately in this small group is we get a chance to really experience a group dynamic. Each week, we're going to work with one person and we're going to incorporate, we're all going to be on a journey together with different exercises. It's very special and unique. So every person will get to have their turn to work on, but we're all learning from each other. And there's some bonuses involved in this too. And you can check out more information online.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for being here again. I think it was a really fundamental conversation, long overdue, and I can hear the light bulbs popping and the sparks flying for our listeners right now. So we'll have more information about Daniel's offerings on weeklyenergyboost.com right at the top of the homepage. You can also find our archives, send us a message, or read about all the different things we mention on every episode. You can also click the donate button and support us, our podcast, and extending our reach there. As always, we want to make sure that you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as anywhere you listen to podcasts. And the biggest help you can give us is really to share this episode with people who you know, who might fall under the category of people pleasing, just to create this awakening and I think the collective reclaiming of our own authentic selves lends itself to what Daniel mentioned before, the idea of bringing an end to pain and suffering by each one of us shining our own unique light. That's definitely a part of the recipe to get there. Have a fabulous week. Thank you for being with us, Daniel.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on the Weekly Energy Boost.